So when you can, call us and just tell us, hey, this is what's going on. Help us with this situation. So you guys are doing, based on everything Mr. Mosley told me, you're doing a good job on your CPL in terms of identifying who you are allowing to carry in your church, making copies of their license, letting them know, hey, when this expires and you re-up, bring it in, and then kind of know where those guys are in your congregation, right? This, know who they are, so that if there is an incident, you know who the good and bad guys are. It's great if you could say, hey, we're going to have everyone with the CPL meet here on Tuesday night. We're going to talk about the dangers of having multiple guns in a certain area. Police talk about that all the time. You know, military and crossfire is a real thing, right? Where if I'm over here and the bad guy is here and I start shooting, like what's past him and what's beyond him? So there are, I say all the time, and when people ask me about like guns in schools or churches, whatever, I can stand up here for 20 minutes and convince you nobody should have a gun in a church and these are the reasons why. And then I can come over here for 20 minutes and say, these are the reasons why having firearms in a church by trained professionals could save the lives of a bunch of people, right? So there are two very clear sides to it, and I don't argue either one, because I can see one side and I can see the other. I was at a church a couple of years ago, and that pastor was adamant about not having anybody with guns in his church. And me and him got to talking afterwards, and I said, yeah, I somewhat understand that. I said, but a friend of mine who was on the SWAT team with us, like, Shane and I did it for 20 years. The amount of training that is built into us in terms of identifying backgrounds and different stuff like that, I said, so you would, if I was a member of your congregation, you wouldn't want me carrying a gun in your church? He's like, no, if you were in my church, I'd be okay with you having one, right? So there is a level where you say, hey, these people are trained enough in it that I know when to fire, where to fire, angles to create to make sure people are safe. So every church has its own philosophy on it, and I don't try to change that. All I tell you is, if you're going to have people carry, this is the Michigan law that allows it, right? But within that law, it says that the head of the church has to okay you carrying a gun. And by you guys taking that license and copying it, though that you're basically saying the head of the church by proxy has said that you can carry a gun in this church. Anybody else carrying a gun in that church is doing it without the permission of the church. So just make sure that your people understand that if you know somebody's carrying a gun and they haven't checked in with the church, have them check in. Because places like Joe Louis used to do it, I don't know about Little Caesars now, as police they would have you check in. They just wanted to know where everybody was. So if something happened, they knew the police in the arena who had guns in there. They didn't allow CPLs, but they would allow police to carry it. But they wanted you to check in so they knew where you were at. You guys should kind of be thinking the same thing. And you may have somebody who you're like, you know you have a CPL? I don't want you. I don't trust you, right? I don't trust that you are confident enough in an emergency situation to use that firearm correctly. You might be able to go to a CPL class and hit a target 5 times and get your license, but I may not trust you to do that. So that's kind of up to you guys, and this is what gives you the ability to say, I'm sorry, but I don't want you carrying a gun in my church, and if that offends you, and you can find another church. You guys can think of 100 reasons why you may not want that person carrying a gun. Our department is divided by road patrol officers, we're about 400, and then jail officers, I think we're about 800, somewhere right around there. Our jail officers are gun-carrying officers, every one of them, but there are people within that group who are not people that I want in an emergency situation, right? They have, a long time ago, said, my career is corrections. I have this gun because the department tells me I have to carry it, but I don't want anything to do with what's going on out there on the road, right? There are people that say, I'm not comfortable in this situation, and or there's people that Shane and I know that person is not going to be in that situation, right? When we send our corrections officers out to hospital watches and transports and things, we pick who those people are because we say, I trust you if it hits the fan, you're gonna, be competent to deal with it. You people over here, we're gonna just keep in the jail and have you run the way we want it to run. So you guys should look at it the same way. So that's kind of the overall, what you as a church should be looking to do. That's kind of the outline of saying, exterior, what should we be doing? Interior, what should we be doing? And then personnel, where should we be thinking of placing them, and who should we be thinking of using? When we're done with this presentation, Shane and I, we will walk around more with you guys, we'll answer any questions you have about specifics to your church, but that's kind of the federal best practices outline of keeping doors closed, having trained personnel inside who are ready to respond, and then making your building as secure as you can. And you guys should be the ones thinking, where are our weak points? When are we the most susceptible to something happening? And then placing your people in place to deal with that, or hardening that the windows or the doors are doing different things to say, I don't feel safe about this. What if we change the way this is? What if we put in a lock on one of these doors, and then that would give us an area where the kids could secure themselves? The other side of that now is, if you do get an active shooter in your church here now, or anywhere else out there, the mall, the movies, anything like that, how do I respond? What should I do? And this would be, if we were to come back and say, hey, now let's talk to the congregation, let's talk to anybody who wants to talk about, this is that civilian response. And the FBI developed what they call the run, hide, fight model, basically saying you have 3 responses that you can use. You can either run away from it, they use the term hide, but more or less you can barricade yourself away from it, or you can fight when there's no other options out there. You have no other way of doing it. So they put out this video a couple years ago, and it does a pretty good job of breaking down that civilian response. It's set in a restaurant, but the concepts will remain the same. And so we'll show this video quick, and then we will talk about how that plays out here, and then in the future with us. Let's see what this
My name is Sharon Jackson. Wait a minute. stop 48 until we can find a tourniquet. In the meantime, turn off your phones and make a plan to defend yourself.
You can survive a mass shooting if you're prepared. Remember, run, hide, or fight. Run. Wherever you go, be aware of alternate exits. Quickly and cautiously evacuate in a direction away from the attacker. Don't hesitate. Seconds matter. Remember windows and emergency exits. Leave belongings behind. Keep your empty hands raised and clearly visible when exiting the building. Follow all instructions from the police. Don't stop until you're sure you've reached a safe location. Hide. If there is no safe escape route, find a good hiding place. Lock and barricade the door. Silence cell phones. Prepare a defense plan. Fight. Fight only as a last resort. Use available objects as improvised weapons. Use teamwork and surprise. A coordinated ambush can incapacitate an attacker. You're fighting for your life. Don't fight fair. Stop the bleed. A victim can die of uncontrolled blood loss in 5 minutes or less. Apply pressure or a tourniquet to control severe bleeding. Go to FBI.gov/survive to learn more.
So the important thing to note in this run, fight, fight response is they call it options-based response, meaning the options for a 70-year-old grandma in your congregation might be completely different than for a 25-year-old young man that's in your congregation, right? The different people, and you might have kids with you, or different, your response might be, I'm running because I don't have the ability to fight, or the people I'm with, I need to get out of this building, right? So the situation you're in and then your ability to respond are going to be which options that you have to respond. Because if I all of a sudden am sitting down at this chair and I stand up with a gun, your options to hide or run are pretty much gone, right? So this group over here might say, all we can do is grab a pencil and stab this dude, because that's what I got. But if you guys are over here, while this is happening, your options now are, I can run out of here, I can go find somewhere to lock a door and barricade myself. So there's all kinds of different active shooter responses for the public, but all of them fall back to this option-based response. Have any of you guys heard of Alice training before? Alice is a big company who does school active shooter response. You pay them to come in, they train your staff, and then your school is blessed as being certified by this company. But in the end, it's all the same thing. It's options-based response. Alice is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and then evade. In the end, it's giving you different options of what you should do. So the one thing that those videos don't talk much about is situational awareness. And it's exceptionally important for you guys within your church, and I know that we talked about this already, what's going on in that congregation who is in it, how are they acting, and how do we need to then respond based on what they're doing, right? If we have someone that comes into our church and our ushers have already identified them as a possible problem, are we keeping an eye on them? Are we preparing a plan to say, if this guy starts acting odd, what are our responses going to be? So being aware of what's going on around you. I talked about that emergency plan with your church, knowing what rooms offer the greatest safety to your kids up here. Are there rooms that they can lock doors and be safe? And knowing where the exits are within that area so that if something does happen, they can get out of it. I went to the movies a couple weeks ago with my family. I've got 3 teenage girls, I know. Everyone feels sorry for me. We're at the movies, and I try my best to kind of practice what I preach, right? So before the lights went out, we're in those big recliners now that are at the movies, right? I sit up and I look, and to my right, I notice there's no exit over there. Most traditional movie theaters are kind of shaped like a U, right? Where you can come down either side and you go up to the seats. So I don't know if this theater got cut in half at some point, and they just put a wall in the middle of it, or if that's how it was designed. But there was only one hallway that went back to where we came from. And I thought for half a second, said, man, if the lights went out and gunfire erupted in this theater, the first thing I would try to do would be to get away from it with my family. And it would only be one way to go because there's only one way in here. I would have ran my family into a wall, right? Into a curtain wall that said, and would have had to then figure out what to do. So to me, like, that is situational awareness. Do I take 10 seconds to look around my environment and say, if something happened, where are my exits and where are the rooms? God forbid if you guys ran into a room thinking you were going to find safety and the door is locked because it's a storage area, right? Like, all these different things that we say, I need to be prepared so if something does happen, I can immediately act and not hesitate. We use this chart with our police talking about situational awareness, and it's basically saying you no longer, even in church, can be unaware and tuned out to your surroundings, right? I no longer can be sitting here listening to the service and ignoring everything going on behind me, right? If I hear something happening, I have to kind of be like, hey, are you okay? Is everything okay? Right? To make sure that all of a sudden something doesn't happen behind me, right? If somebody is causing a problem, if there's a medical problem, I kind of need to be like, hey, over here I need help, right? And not be afraid to say like, hey, get up and go find an usher and say, hey, that dude behind me is talking all kinds of like craziness, right? I think he's going to be a problem, right? So now at least we can come over here, maybe as an usher, maybe I just kind of stand over here, off here, right? But now I'm watching, right? And just making sure that if he does do something, that I am prepared to do it. And maybe the only reason I'm prepared to do it is because somebody else got up and said, hey man, like, that dude over there is not right. Or an usher said, hey, did you see that guy walk in with that big bag? Like, that's weird, right? And we didn't do anything now, but I think we certainly should keep an eye on him and make sure he's not digging in that bag doing something. So that kind of puts us in this yellow, in this, we're relaxed, we're trying our best to like just, you know, be into what's happening and listening to the service and all of those things, but I am prepared in case something happens. So that if that happens, if you're in this fight and you're not prepared, and we see it all the time, you will go from white to black, from panic and frozen. There is a video out there, you guys may have seen it, it's a couple of years old now. There's a church in Texas where this guy comes into the church and immediately security is on him. They're like, that dude is off, he's got a big coat on, he's actually hiding a shotgun, right? So the whole time, and these ushers are armed at this church, which puts me over here on this side saying, here's a time when armed personnel in the church were a very good thing. Well, all of a sudden, these ushers, this guy gets up in the middle of service and these ushers confront him. He immediately pulls out a shotgun and shoots one of their guys. Shoots one of their guys point blank. And then, right after that happens, he starts, it's a church about as big as this area is. He goes from the back all the way up here to the front with his shotgun, and he stops right here, and one of the ushers shoots him and kills him, right? So, there's your armed security. Good thing. Being aware of what's going on. Yes, one guy got shot, but in an active shooter situation, by definition, someone's kind of getting shot before the event happens, right? Because it is now an active shooter situation. But what you see in that video is members of the congregation not fleeing out the back when gunfire happens, but actually on the ground, on their backs, trying to wiggle underneath the pews to hide from this guy with a gun. And what we know, if we know anything about active shooters, is zero mercy, right? Everything that we have seen from that church in South Carolina where he shot a bunch of 70-year-old grandmas, to a different church in Texas where the youngest person he shot was 18 months old, right? They have no mercy. There is no, oh, you're nice. If you hide under stuff, you become a victim, right? You become part of that statistic. So, when we're in this yellow, we say, hey, if something happens, I don't want to go to black and freeze and just crawl underneath the chair. I want to go into this orange and red where I identify a problem and I take action. And by taking action, that doesn't mean that we have to be the ones that stop it. But it certainly means that we want to be getting away from it. We want to know where we're going to go and get away from the problem. So in that run, hide, fight model, things to remember with running is knowing that is accessible escape path, right? And moving as quickly as you can. Leaving whatever you got in the building, taking with you who came with you. My wife and I always knew, especially, believe it or not, church was the #1 place that I make sure to carry my off-duty weapon. More than movie theaters and restaurants and anywhere else, churches to me always seem like they are the most susceptible and that they are targets to what's going on. So I always made sure that I carried my gun in church, and my wife knew we sat in the same place every Sunday. If something happens, you and the kids are going out that door. Immediately, gotta go, right? Don't worry about me, but if I know you're gone, then I can do my job, right? If not, then I gotta take care of my kids, right? I gotta make sure my family's safe. But knowing where I'm gonna run, knowing what that looks like, knowing who I gotta make sure I take with me, if I got a grandma with me or whatever that is, and what does that path look like? And importantly, if my plan was to escape out this way, because I think the threat's going to come from here, well, then what happens if the threat comes from here, right? If the threat comes out of the back somewhere, what is my secondary plan? Where else can I go? I can't get in this door, but I'll go to that door. I'm going to go out these doors, whatever that is. Having multiple routes, and that I say it all the time, the sooner you call 911, the sooner help gets you, right? We as police can't get there until someone calls 911. At Grand Blanc, they were exceptionally lucky that there was a DNR officer and a Grand Blanc officer less than a minute away from the church. So from the 911 call till them showing up, I think was 57 seconds or something like that. You guys have a ton of police in this area that will drop everything going on if they get a call that is happening here, but they can't come until the first 911 call comes. So make sure, don't assume someone else did it. Make sure you call and give whatever information you have. And you may have been the first one out the door. I heard gunfire in the church and I ran out the door, that's all I know. That's fine. Don't make up stuff, just tell us what you know. Oh, here you go. This is, I wasn't sure if I had it in this presentation. This is that church I was talking about. So I don't play the video because I'm not looking to scare everybody, but this is a screenshot from that church. And you can see, this is the gunman right here. This is the gentleman who got shot. And these two other guys are their other armed security. So you can see the size of the church. Now look what happens as soon as that gunfire goes off. look what happens to the congregation. They all are trying to get underneath their pews, right? Exits are back here and here, kind of like what we have here. Where these people in the back, they're behind. This is the good guy now. The bad guy is up here in front. All these people, rather than running, are trying, except this dude right here. This is the guy I want on my security team, because clearly he doesn't flinch underneath the fire, right? That is like World War II grandma right there, just do like shit. Seen that happen before, right? But that is what that looked like at that church. And that is, now the beauty of this security team is this guy was a firearms instructor and an actual, I don't say professional, but a competitive shooter. So anyone of you guys that fire handguns know that is a massive handgun shot to shoot that guy and take him out there. But again, looking for people in your congregation who have special skills, that guy was one of them. So again, hide does not mean climbing under these tables, right? Hide doesn't mean trying to get underneath these chairs. It's identifying these areas up here or downstairs that offer, if these rooms are lockable, these doors are awesome. These solid wood doors eat up bullets. Like a handgun round probably does not go through that door. A rifle round probably will, right? And we always need to be cognizant of not standing behind doors, because what's crazy with these shooters is you can have a drywall wall right here that bullets go through like paper, and a solid oak door. And what do these guys shoot at? They shoot at the doors, right? Not at this. So stay out of, and this is just like facts. This is just what they do. Stay out from behind doors. But when we talk about hiding and barricading yourself, there's a second stage to that. That this is not what we're looking for, right? This is what some of the scenes we have seen people, if you think about Columbine High School, if you guys remember that back from the late 90s, all those kids in the library died just like that. Underneath desks begging for their life. Now, that was almost 30 years ago now. That was one of the first active shooter incidents we've ever had. Nobody, and the difference between these active shooters is there is no target, right? They're not just saying, I hate so-and-so and I'm gonna go find him and shoot him. It is walking into a place like this and saying, I don't know you, but I'm shooting you, and then I'm shooting you, and then so there is no mercy, there's no, there's nothing we can do pleading-wise that is going to stop them from doing what they're doing. So if we accept that, we say, okay, that's the reality of these active shooters. They came to this church because they don't like the message, right? They don't like the religion or whatever their messed up view is. That guy up in Grand Blanc was targeting the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, that was his thought process. I'm going after one of those. I don't know which church it's going to be, but it's that religion for whatever reasons he had in his head. If they make that decision, then who's ever in there is on their list. So, not this, but if you guys can see, all these people are not just hiding, right? They're not behind doors. They've stacked whatever is in that room up against the door for two reasons. One, in case the door doesn't lock and I can't keep the guy out. Or whatever reason we have that he might get through that door. But also when he starts shooting through that door, now I've got a bunch more stuff up in there that can absorb those bullets if they do come through the door. In school shootings, we are seeing this a lot now because the schools are so well trained at locking down. These gunmen, there are security footage of them just running through the halls of the schools looking for kids who didn't get into classrooms and lock down. And when they don't find them, they just start shooting randomly into the classrooms. And we have found bullets lodged in desks and all kinds of stuff stacked up. But what else they're doing is probably hard to see in this picture here, but they have what we call improvised weapons, right? They have picked up whatever's in their vicinity and said, if this guy comes through the door, he's getting a mic stand to the forehead because that's what I have, right? he's getting a podium, he's getting this bin thrown at him. Whatever I can do, whatever I have, we have lists and lists of what improvised weapons are, but it's whatever you have. A cell phone is an improvised weapon, right? Whether I keep it in my hand and hit you with it, or I throw it at you, at a minimum to create a diversion. If you're coming at me and I throw my cell phone, you have to respond to it. You have to stop it, whatever it is, and in doing that, now maybe I bought myself 2 seconds to run, or 2 seconds to tackle you. They do this drill in active shooter training for us where they give out cotton balls, and they say, turn to the person next to you, and just throw a cotton ball, right? And your human instinct is, oh, to stop, right? You know it's not gonna hurt you, it's a cotton ball. But your human instinct is to do this. And while I'm doing this, I'm not doing this, right? And if we can get multiple people to do that, then we have created a diversion that either allows more people to escape, or it gives me then the ability to, maybe I throw my cell phone and then I grab a chair, right? Maybe I throw my cell phone and then I tackle it. You guys, it sounds like, will at least have a group of people saying, hey, we have to confront this person, and we're gonna use everything in our power to stop it, whether it's because we've got some armed personnel, or it's because we've got just a bunch of people that recognize this is a threat to our congregation and we need to do something to stop it. If you're barricading and you get into a room that doesn't have the ability to lock the door, there's a few other things you can do, like grabbing extension cords and AV cords and just pulling on that door, being able to keep yourself offline of that door. If you guys have ever seen here these actuators that are on most commercial doors to help with the weight, if you can keep those actuators from opening, it'll keep that door from opening. So if you grab a belt or wrap a cord around it, all kinds of different stuff. The main thing is, don't wait to be evicted. If you end up in an area where you can't get that door locked, stack stuff in front of it. Do everything you can, because this guy knows, kind of like a bank robbery Hollywood movie, where they say, all right, we've got 3 minutes. We need to get all the money we can get in 3 minutes. These guys kind of know the same thing. I'm on a timer until the police show up. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time trying to break through a door with a bunch of desks and stuff behind it, because I've only got 2 minutes. And I'm going to look for the people hiding under chairs. And I'm going to look for the people who are not finding a way out of this building, right? So if they know that if we can become a hard target, then they leave us. And then that last part is fight. And clearly, if we have a firearm, our first option would be to use it, right? Fight fire with fire, right? The reason police carry firearms is because we don't want to be outgunned in a confrontation, right? So fight fire with fire. But if we don't have a firearm, maybe we're not at church, maybe we're somewhere else, what else can I do? And I talked a little bit about it, right? Throwing things at them, acting aggressively, knowing the weak points that normally 9 times out of 10, I'm never in a fight going to be gouging eyes and doing all kinds of stuff that's not legal in the MMA. But if I'm fighting a dude with a gun, all that's on the table, right? The groin, the eyes, anything that I can do. If it means, like I said, I pick up a pencil and stab a guy, you're fighting for your life, 100%. You understand that if I don't stop him, he's going to shoot me. And when you put all that on the table, then everything is available to you, right? Fight for your life, because that's what you're doing. We talked a lot about this already, about not being the one holding the gun when the police arrive. Did you guys just see that video of the shooting, was it in Australia, I think, where there were 2 shooters, and a civilian actually tackles one of the guys with a gun? Yeah. So the bad guy's shooting, and he's doing this, and this is what these guys do, and this is our biggest advantage. They don't ever in a million years think, if I'm over here pointing a gun at people over here, they never in a million years think, you guys are going to do something. I'm not worried about you. I'll deal with you when I'm done with this, right? And just like that, in that shooting, you guys can look it up. This guy's kind of up against a tree and he's just shooting, and the dude just walks up behind him and tackles him. right? He just tackles him. He gets the gun away from him. But now here come the police, right? And this dude's like, he doesn't want anything to do with it, right? But that's kind of that idea. Find a way to, and I kind of like what he did. So what he did, and whether he consciously did it or not, was he got that gun away from the guy and he pointed it at the guy. But he kind of created distance, right? And then when he put the gun down, now, if you think you're going to come back at me, then I'll pick it back up, right? But I created some distance, so if the cops come, this was him, gun at his feet, but doing this, right? But now, if the cops aren't there, and you think I put the gun down for good, I will prove to you I didn't, right? So, know that, maybe if you have a holster, you create distance, right? But you are like, hey, if I need to, I'm ready. But I don't want to need this when the cops come, right? So, don't be the one pointing that gun at somebody on the ground when the police show, right? We tell our teachers and stuff who are a lot less familiar with firearms most of the time, like, put the gun in a trash can and hold the trash can. Now, you've got the gun away from the guy. But if I am the police and I come into the building, I don't see you as a threat immediately, right? Or if let's say that I need to hold this gun on this guy for whatever reason, go to the front doors and wave those cops down and tell them we have them, but we've got them gun. That takes the cops from here to here, right? Now they're like, okay, let's go see if we can help. You just don't want to look like you are the aggressor in that situation. So, attack them as a group, swarm them, distract them, and that's all you've got. If you immediately all you've got is your pew, your hymnal next to you in your pews, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Distract them and hope the person behind you grabs them, right? But anything you can do, think of the cotton ball thing, anything I can do to immediately distract them so that other people can come. Or attack them with improvised weapons. This is, it's funny, sometimes we'll do like scenario role playing with the schools where one of us will put on a vest and have a Nerf gun and then the teachers have to defend themselves. And we give them like tennis balls and say, just use these, like don't hurt my deputy, right? This is pretty much a list of everything a teacher has attacked our guys with, right? Like flagpoles and staplers and chairs flying across the room, right? We pretty much had to stop doing it because they got so into this like role of defending themselves. But when you look around, there is nothing in your vicinity that is not a weapon, right? Whether it's a weapon to distract or a fire extinguisher, which in general, you hit someone in the head with a fire extinguisher, that is the end of that fight, right? So, or even spraying it out. So, improvised weapons. I put this guy up here because this was a church of over 200 people in Tennessee where they had a Christmas pageant going on or some kind of dance there. And here comes a guy walking down the aisle with a rifle. This dude here, we don't ever talk about the bad guys, but like probably nobody ever heard of this guy because he stopped a mass shooting, right? He tackled that shooter and stopped him. Now he ended up getting shot, right? Again, when it's kind of like they train police and stuff, so like if you get in a knife fight, expect you're probably going to get cut, right? That's kind of part of the thing. If you take on a guy with a gun, there's a chance the gunfire may happen. But what are we saving, right? 200 kids up on stage to say, not in my church, like not in my town, this is not happening. So here's another one. This is an usher. This is a really quick news video clip, but this is an usher that stopped a gunman in this church again. Probably just never heard of it.
County moments of terror after now the latest deadly church shooting in the U.S. Tonight, federal investigations underway into the gunman who opened fire inside that church near Nashville. Here's Kenneth Craig.
The Burnett Chapel Church of Christ became a crime scene on Sunday. This morning, a masked man shot a woman dead in the church parking lot, then went into the church and opened fire. Police say he shot 6 people before he was confronted by an usher.
During the confrontation,
The church usher was disparate. There was a significant struggle between the two. During the struggle, the gunman shot himself, probably not intentionally.
The suspect survived and is now in police custody. Investigators identified him as men.
Alright, so that was one where the usher, untrained, unprepared, this one's a pretty long time ago, basically just attacked him. And again, why? Because my imagination would be that that gunman was walking down the pews and now here comes the usher from the back and he doesn't expect it, right? So the one advantage that we have in an active shooter incident, and we just saw it play out again, is they are not expecting people to fight back. And that's the one advantage we have. The one thing that is that gives us that quick, distinct advantage is the first thing we do they're not expecting. And if we do it violently and we do it with commitment to whatever we're doing, and we get other people on board to help us, then chances are it will end there, right? It may not end pretty, it may be, a very violent physical fight, but if we can commit to it, then we stop being one of these churches that we see show violence. So what should you report to 911? I kind of alluded to it already. Just report what you know. If all you knew was you saw a guy in a dark coat go into the church and you heard gunfire, that's all you know. Because anything else doesn't help us. If you start guessing and you tell me that the guy had a green shirt on, and I am looking for a guy with a green shirt who didn't have a green shirt, then that makes that much harder for us to do our job. So what do you know at the time? Where were you at? And that's about it. If you guys didn't know this, basically in every county in Michigan now, except I think one in the UP, you can text 911. So all you do is put in the to field, in the field you're trying to send it to, 911, and like any cell phone, it will hit out the nearest tower and tell it to go to Wayne County DPD dispatch, and they will be able, you can text and you can say, I'm locked in a room, I'm trying to be quiet, but this is what is going on. And then they text back to you just like it's a normal text message. So if you didn't know that exists, it does, and it's a really good way to deal with that. If you guys haven't looked into your emergency medical side of this, this is kind of just a PSA. Yes, during an active shooter, you may need to do some stop the bleed type medical training, but this is more like, hey, what do you guys have at your church that can help in a medical emergency? Who's trained in CPR? Do you have an automatic defibrillator in your church? It's fine either way, whether you do or don't, but it's good to know if you do, and good to make sure, if you guys, I'm talking about the shock pads you put on people. If you have one, make sure you have people that are trained to use it. So initially, kind of as a civilian response to first aid, the first thing that the Red Cross put out there trying to get nationwide was CPR, right? If we get enough of our people trained in CPR, then if something happens, we have people on scene who are continuing to at least circulate the blood through the body until emergency personnel arrives. The next thing was the automatic defibrillators, because they said you can do CPR all day. If the heart is in defib, it needs to be shocked back in. So that was kind of their next thing, saying, hey, it's not cheap, but if you can get one of these, that could definitely save a person's life, right? Round 3 of that now is what they call Stop the Bleed. And it's kind of another national response out there. And it focuses solely on like hemorrhaging blood loss. Blood loss that within 3 to 5 minutes somebody will die. So you're talking about your arteries, your main arteries in your arms, and your main arteries in your legs. That's pretty much it, right? Those are the areas where, and I guess your neck, but if you lose that one, you're in pretty bad shape, right? But they found in combat, in the military, the majority of people they were losing was to this massive hemorrhaging blood loss. And they said, if our soldiers, and you will see almost every police officer now, you will see tourniquets on their body somewhere. because they know you might be the first officer here, and I just need you to stop that bleeding in that leg. And if you can do that, it will save this person's life, right? So these Stop the Bleed kits and this Stop the Bleed training is all over the place now, saying, if we can stop that hemorrhaging blood loss, and again, it doesn't have to be from a shooter, someone might put their arm through a window, or someone might accidentally cut their arm trying to prepare food or something, and you may need to stop that blood loss before the paramedics can get here. Because like I said, 3 to 5 minutes. These tourniquets are like $25 online, and then the other big advancement in Stop the Bleed is gauze that is impregnated with blood clotting, artificial blood clotting agent. This stuff's incredible. Shane and I have seen videos where they will use like a pig, and they will cut the artery of the pig and put this, it used to be powder, they now have got it into gauze pads because the surgeons said this powder is impossible to get out of the wound. It stops blood, it clots blood 30 times faster than the body's natural ability to do it. So you get these big hemorrhaging blood loss, you put this gauze impregnated with this stuff on it, and it stops that bleeding 30 times faster. So that's what these Stop the Bleed kits are. I've got business cards here if any of you guys want them, if you have questions afterwards or whatever. Hey, can you point me towards this or towards this? Feel free to email me anytime. I'm pretty accessible through that. I can send you links or things like that. So, I've talked a lot about it already. You know what our response is going to be, is just to get in there as quickly as we can, stop the bad guy, and then all of our guys are trained in this Stop the Bleed. So as soon as that threat is eliminated, now we may show up and you guys say, hey, we stopped the guy, he's here, he's either tied up or incapacitated or whatever, we will start transitioning right away to helping the victims to try to stop that blood loss. But that's kind of, we kind of are two-parted, stop the guy shooting and then help the victims who got shot. What can you guys do? You're doing it right now, like this training, having me out here, having a security team plan. That's pretty much it. At the very bottom, if you guys have kids in school, you probably have heard one of these slogans, like see something, say something. We tell them all the time, like, okay to say, right? Like, anything that you can do to help alert people, hey, did you see that guy? Did you hear what so-and-so said last? If you can start as a community, as a church, trying to keep, hey, tell us if you guys know there's something going on with somebody, or tell us if somebody in your pew, you feel like they're not being safe, right? Let us know, so that if something happens, we've got resources devoted to it. That's our website up there, but you're probably better just email me if you guys have questions. In general, we operate in Oakland County, but we are more than happy to come out and basically, you see us here today. We are happy to give training just about anywhere. Only thing we ask is if you have like a local PD that you first say, like, hey, do you guys offer this training? So that we're not stepping on their toes, but if they're too hard to get a hold of, or if they don't have the community resources that we have, then we're kind of happy to come out and do this for you. That's it. So if you guys want to turn the lights on,